At the beginning, a boy named Suda Shiojiri was walking down the hall of his school building while looking at his phone. He thought to himself that he was just an ordinary first-year high school student at Alpico Private Academy. A few months ago, he had even gotten his first girlfriend, something he still found hard to believe. As he smiled and blushed at the memory, he noticed an advertisement on his phone that read, 9,000 yen per day, part-time. One-off shifts are okay. Suda reminded himself that it was just him and his father at home, and that they had a lot of debt. Whenever possible, he tried to put whatever pocket money he had toward groceries. He wished that his hard-working father could at least enjoy a nutritious meal once in a while. At the same time, Suda wanted to save money to make his girlfriend happy by taking her out on a proper date. With their first summer break together approaching, he wanted to do something she would really enjoy. For that reason, he had been searching for a summer job. When he reached a classroom door, he paused. He opened the door and saw Kusumi sitting inside. Calling out to her, he started talking about their summer break date. Kusumi looked up in confusion and asked what he was talking about. Sitting on a bench, she bluntly declared that she would never waste her precious summer break on anyone but her real boyfriend. She told Suda that he could at least act like a proper wallet, suggesting that he get a job out of town instead. Suda's face turned pale with shock. He stammered, asking if she was joking, reminding her that he was her boyfriend. Kusumi denied it without hesitation. She said that he was nothing more than her wallet and bag boy, and that she would never seriously date him. Suda's thoughts became clouded with disbelief as he realized that none of their moments together had been real. Every memory he treasured had only been a lie. With a trembling voice, he asked why she had even agreed when he confessed to her in the first place. She explained arrogantly that she had only done it to kill time. Huffing, she added that she was the daughter of a CEO and that someone like him could never match her. She mocked him further, saying he lacked any redeeming qualities. He was neither tall nor handsome, nor did he have enough money to even serve as her wallet. To her, he was nothing more than an NPC at best. She laughed cruelly, and those around her joined in. Suda clenched his hand tightly, forcing a laugh as he thought bitterly about what she truly thought of him. His feelings had been entirely one-sided. With a tense face, he looked at Kusumi as she continued. She told him that if he ever became as popular as someone she admired, she might consider calling him her boyfriend. She then showed him her phone screen, where the name Isuzu Wine was displayed. Suda recognized it instantly. Kusumi explained enthusiastically that Isuzu Wine was the super popular top female streamer, her absolute favorite. She blushed and gushed over how cute the streamer was, even mentioning that Isuzu was now performing the theme song for a movie. Suda confirmed it was for Amo, which made Kusumi smirk that even someone like him knew about her influence. With a dreamy expression, she admitted that she would love to see Isuzu Wine in real life, even if only for a moment. The people around her called her cute and asked her to show them more, while Suda considered speaking but quickly held back, covering his mouth with his hand. Kusumi dismissed him again, saying she would not waste her time on worthless trash like him, especially since she already had a real boyfriend. Suda muttered the word real, realizing that he had never even stood a chance. She told him to know his place, calling him trash and declaring she would not concern herself with commoners. Mocking him, she turned away as Suda's expression darkened. He walked out quietly as the surrounding students jeered, calling him neat boy, while Kusumi laughed behind him. Later that evening, at Suda's home, he reflected bitterly on being called worthless trash. He wondered if it had been arrogant to wish to be someone's first choice. While cooking, he recalled how Kusumi had gone out of her way to speak to him at first, and how he had once thought of her as a kind and cheerful girl. With a sigh, he decided that from now on he would simply focus on his family and live quietly, like the plants and flowers. As he cooked, he overheard a girl's voice coming from an iPad. It was a live stream where a virtual streamer mocked her audience, teasing them that if they had nothing better to spend money on, they should drop it on her since none of them had girlfriends anyway. While she played her game, she added that she would not even thank them for their donations. Suda realized she was a VTuber so popular that even Garrus like Kusumi adored her. He thought about how super chats were essentially gratuities, like tips at a cabaret club. If a hostess demanded money in the same way, she would be fired on the spot, but Isuzu Wine managed to thrive with this behavior. He watched as the chat showered her with money despite her insults, and he reflected on how most streamers thanked their donors by name, keeping fans engaged. But Isuzu Wine ended her stream abruptly, simply saying, "Alright, that's it. Later." Suda observed the disappointed chat messages, asking why she had not even thanked them. Despite her harshness, he thought she was actually a good kid underneath. Once the stream ended, he prepared to bring food upstairs. Carrying the meal, he climbed the stairs, reminding himself that she truly was a good kid, and the reason he knew this was because Isuzu Wine was none other than his younger sister, Isuzu Shiojuri. He knocked on her door and called out, telling her he had brought food. Opening the door, he saw her sitting at her computer. Before he could comment on her earlier stream, she leapt from her chair with excitement, calling out to him and hugging him tightly. Suda raised the food with both hands, warning her to be careful, while she laughed and thanked him warmly, blushing with happiness. Suda thought of her as his pride and joy, a hopeless brokon, who loved her big brother far too much. For them, this was just another ordinary day. Yet, in hindsight, Suda realized that this particular day had been different. As the live chat continued rolling on her screen, filled with confused viewers asking if what they saw was scripted, Isuzu sat back in her chair and cheerfully asked her brother to feed her. Suda remembered that this was when the unfortunate incident began. Suda thought about his little sister, Isuzu Shiojuri. She was 15 years old, 1 year below him, in the 3rd grade of middle school. Instead of attending school, she was active as a VTuber. For certain reasons, she no longer went to class and spent most of her time holed up in her room, shy around strangers. She had silver hair, snow-white skin, and striking emerald-colored eyes, features that set her apart from ordinary Japanese girls. That was because she was half Russian, half Japanese. By contrast, Suda considered himself as standard as they came, with black hair and black eyes. He reminded himself that he and Isuzu were not blood-related, she was his stepsister. When she smiled warmly at him, he acknowledged in his thoughts that their family situation was complicated, but he chose to skip over the details. Calling out cheerfully, Isuzu beckoned him over. Suda warned her to let go, or the food might spill. As he looked at her, he admitted to himself that although she was on the small side, her figure still had some definition, something he couldn't help but notice. Suddenly, his attention was caught by the scrolling chat on her monitor. Isuzu began calling out repeatedly, "Big bro, big bro, big brew." She sat on her bed and thanked him happily for bringing food to her room. Suda replied with some hesitation, acknowledging that he understood how much she disliked leaving her room. She praised him with a smile, saying that he knew her better than anyone. When Suda reminded her not to leave leftovers, she blushed cutely and teased him that if he didn't feed her, she might leave some behind. Suda sighed and gave in, agreeing to feed her. With a bright, happy expression, she thanked him excitedly. Suda thought to himself that some might say he spoilt her, but he simply couldn't say no to her requests. Even though they weren't related by blood, he couldn't help finding her adorable. Watching her eat happily, he reflected that he would never do anything to make Isuzu dislike him. After she finished, she touched her stomach and exclaimed that she was stuffed. Then she lay down on Suda's thighs. Suda began gently, bringing up her stream. She looked at him in surprise, blushing happily that he had actually watched it. He admitted he had, but then, with a serious tone, told her that although he understood it was part of her character, she should really stop saying such harsh things to her viewers. Isuzu was stunned. Suda explained further, saying that the viewers made time to tune into her streams, cheered her on, and even gave their hard-earned money. He told her that it wasn't right to ignore their comments and that the least she could do when someone donated and left a message was to thank them sincerely. With a tense expression, Isuzu admitted that she acted that way because it was the kind of character her viewers wanted. Suda said he understood that but reminded her that deep down, she was a kind person. What troubled him most, as her brother, was seeing aunties say terrible things about her online. Isuzu nervously argued that if she didn't behave the way her audience expected, the super chats might stop. Suda gently patted her head and reassured her that she didn't need to push herself so hard for money. He acknowledged their situation, that ever since their mother passed away, their father had been struggling to run her dream cafe, still weighed down by debt. With a soft smile, he reminded her that she had started streaming to support their family. His words nearly moved Isuzu to tears. Suda told her that just giving it her all was already more than enough. Clenching her fists, Isuzu protested that he was also working hard. He had even earned a scholarship. Suda laughed with a modest smile, saying that as long as he kept his top grades, he wouldn't have to pay the money back. But Isuzu shook her head. She insisted that continuing to earn top grades was far too much pressure, especially when he was also helping their father with chores and putting up with her. She pointed out that he often studied late into the night and warned that he would wear himself out. Suda took her hand and assured her that he would be fine. With a smile and a thumbs up, he insisted that her big brother was tougher than he looked, and she didn't need to hurt herself just to make money. Blushing, Isuzu shouted that she didn't want to be a burden to him or their father. She declared that she wanted to become someone her precious family could count on. Her serious yet embarrassed face stunned Soda. Blushing himself, he thanked her, telling her that he loved her very much. She laughed with a cute smile, and he patted her head again. Suddenly, his phone rang. Suda saw the caller ID Kusumi Kisugawa. He thought bitterly that he really didn't want to answer, not after being dumped by her that very day. Isuzu asked who it was and why he wasn't answering. Suda muttered that it was someone from his class. When she pressed further, he admitted that it was because he had been dumped earlier. Isuzu's face darkened with anger. She demanded to know who would do such a thing. Soda explained awkwardly that it was because Kusumi liked someone else. Furious, Isuzu demanded the girl's name. When Suda hesitated, she came closer, insisting. Finally, he said it, Kusumi Kisugawa. Isuzu's expression twisted with anger as she insulted Kusumi, calling her a tramp. Suda quickly flicked her forehead, scolding her for speaking that way about people. She apologized, and Suda laughed, telling her he appreciated that she had gotten angry on his behalf. Blushing deeply, Isuzu held her head and whispered that his kindness was one of the things she loved about him. Then, suddenly, her smartphone began to ring. Suda pointed out that it had been buzzing for a while. When she looked at it, she froze. Suda asked what was wrong. With a scared expression, she admitted she had forgotten to end the broadcast. Her stream was still live. Suda was stunned as the chat went wild. Messages poured in. So all that obsession with money was for her family. And wine, Tan's family is poor. Others noticed the name Kisugawa and connected it to a classmate. Suda glanced at his own phone and was horrified to see 53 missed calls and 28 messages, all from Kusumi, accusing him of exposing her name to all of Japan. He remembered the chats he had seen earlier. Isuzu's voice trembled as she called out to him. When Suda looked at her monitor again, the comments were exploding. If she goes to the same school as that trampy Kusumi, we could probably figure out who Wine's big bro is too, right? Both Suda and Isuzu froze in shock. They clutched each other as the chat raged on. Suda muttered, "What?" while Isuzu screamed in panic. The viewers in the chat only became more excited, one even typing, "Hell yeah, this is getting good." Isuzu panicked as the chat went wild. Suda shouted to her with a flustered expression, telling her the stream had cut out and that it was over for now. Isuzu, startled, hurriedly agreed and ended the stream. Suddenly, her phone rang. Both she and Suda were shocked. She answered, politely thanking the caller for their hard work. The person on the other end frantically admitted, "I'm in trouble, Wine-san." Isuzu excused herself, apologizing repeatedly as she walked outside. Suda, left behind, thought anxiously that the entire conversation had been overheard. To make matters worse, he had accidentally posted Kusumi's real name online. He wondered what would happen if he were found out and whether Kusumi was okay. More than anything, he worried about the impact this could have on Isuzu's activities. The next morning, Suda knocked on Isuzu's door, thinking to himself that she had been on the phone all night. He opened the door and found her sitting in her chair, blushing as she looked at him. She stood and bowed deeply, apologizing to him. Suda reflected that Isuzu was always cheerful and full of energy, yet she had even been scolded by her manager. He knew she must have been reflecting and regretting her mistake, but with her personality, she was probably thinking more about others than herself. He gently patted her head and reassured her that everyone makes mistakes. The important thing was what to do afterwards. Blushing, Isuzu confessed that she liked that about him. Suda added that the hard part would be for her from now on. Isuzu admitted nervously that her character build had been exposed. Suda clenched his fist in frustration, blaming himself for not noticing the stream was still running. He called himself a disgrace as a brother. But then, with a blushing, surprised face, Isuzu revealed that their channel subscribers had increased to 1.25 million. Suda was stunned. She explained that the number had jumped by 250,000 overnight because the broadcasting accident had gone viral. Suda muttered the word viral in disbelief, while Isuzu, jumping happily, realized that the situation had spread everywhere. Relieved, Suda asked if she would be fired, but Isuzu reassured him that she wouldn't. He sank to the floor, overwhelmed with relief. He recalled how it had taken 3 months just to reach 1 million subscribers, and now they had grown by another 250,000 in a single night. He felt guilty for making her worry, but he was proud that even the agency had acknowledged her. He told her she was amazing, but Isuzu smiled warmly and replied that what was amazing was her brother. She then excitedly showed him the trending topics online. Soda was shocked to see number 2, Isuzu Wine Broadcast Incident, number 3, My Awesome Big Bro, and number 1, Number Wine Bro. Confused, he asked about the last one. Isuzu explained it referred to him, Isuzu Wine's Big Bro. Sota shouted in disbelief. She then revealed that her manager had suggested Sota debut as a VTuber himself. Startled, Sota stood halfway but froze in shock, yelling in disbelief at the idea. Isuzu insisted, saying that fans were requesting his presence in comments. He was stunned as she showed him the comments, people praising his kindness, admiring their sibling bond, and even haters changing their opinions of her. Sota realized that the accident had improved her image and thought it was the perfect opportunity to overturn her reputation. With a determined smile, he agreed. Isuzu, shocked but excited, immediately began typing to inform her manager. Blushing, she admitted shyly that even if she debuted, her brother would always be the one by her side. Later, Sota narrated that he had indeed become a VTuber. His childhood friend Yutako, sitting casually on a table, bluntly called him stupid for doing so. Sota snapped back, asking what she meant. She explained that because of a misunderstanding at school, people believed she was dating Kisogwa, and now everyone knew he was Isuzu Wine's brother. She admitted she was worried about him. Sota growled in frustration, telling her to leave if she was only there to tease him. Yutako smirked, reminding him that he couldn't tell customers to leave, since he was a bad cafe employee anyway. Sota thought about how Yutako had always been his childhood friend, their houses close, attending the same middle and high school. She was already a regular on the basketball team as a freshman, while he simply helped part-time at his father's cafe without pay. He wondered how she had figured out he was Isuzu's brother, given that neither his face nor name had been revealed. Yutako answered, simply she recognized his voice. Blushing, she admitted that since they had known each other since childhood, it was natural she would notice. Sota was surprised by her ability to recognize him that way. She brushed it off but then warned him that now he would be bombarded with questions at school. Sota groaned at the thought. Yutako added that with even Wine's older brother debuting, his father would surely be shocked too. Sota nervously agreed, realizing it would surprise his dad. She then asked if he could balance school and being a VTuber. Sota admitted he didn't know, but he had already chosen this fate. Just as the atmosphere grew quiet, a man in a black suit suddenly entered the cafe, his intimidating presence drawing both their attention. Meanwhile, in another place, a girl sat at a piano, practicing. Her phone rang, and she picked it up with mild irritation. She began to hang up but froze when the caller urgently called her name, Rimi. She paused, listening more carefully, her hand resting on the piano keys. A smile spread across her face as she whispered to herself that a promising newcomer had appeared. This was going to be interesting. A man walked up to Sota and asked, "Mr. Sota Shiojiri, is it?" Sota, looking frightened, answered yes, while thinking to himself that the man was too scary. He wondered if this was debt collection from the cafe, and if he was finally going to be sold. The man stepped closer and said, "Ah, we've come to pick you up." Sota, still uneasy, thought to himself, "Pick me up? Where to?" When the man unbuttoned his suit, Sota panicked internally, thinking he was about to pull out a gun. Instead, the man took out a letter and introduced himself as a servant of the president of 812 Production. Sota accepted the letter and repeated aloud, 812 Production. Niikawa, Yutako, shocked and scared, cried out, 812 Production. She turned to Sota and exclaimed that he was a pro, explaining that it was the biggest agency for VTubers, and even Isuzu Wine belonged there. Sota suddenly realized, with a smile, "Ah, Isuzu's agency," but quickly added, "But, it's not my sister, so what do you want with me?" The man explained, "From Miss Isuzu Wine. Haven't you heard about it? I'd like to have a meeting about the VTuber thing. I came to pick you up today." Sota remembered Isuzu winking and, with a sigh, admitted, "Sorry, I wasn't listening." The man bowed politely and apologized. Sota thought to himself that although the man looked intimidating, his words were polite, and he might not be such a bad person. The man then asked if Sota had time that day. Sota replied that he was fine if it was after his part-time job ended. The man turned, saying he would wait outside, and asked Sota to call him once he was finished with work before leaving. Yutako, looking excited, said happily, "Amazing, So-chan. You got scouted by a major agency." Sota corrected her, saying it wasn't like he was scouted but rather through Isuzu. Yutako admitted she had heard they only scouted girls and only famous pros before pointing out that they were now scouting male streamers. Sota was taken aback. "Eh? Huh? So, inside the office, the only guy, just me, surrounded by all girls?" Yutako confirmed it with shock before smiling and telling him to do his best. The scene then shifted to a tall building, where Sota stood outside, staring up. He muttered that it was unbelievable he had ended up in such a place. He thought to himself that meeting with the biggest agency in the V industry as an amateur was nerve-wracking. If he screwed up, his Suzu might fire him, and that was the one thing he absolutely had to avoid. His face turned serious. The man reappeared and said, "Mr. Shiojiri, this way." Suda answered, "Yes," and followed him inside. They entered an elevator, and the man pressed a button. Suddenly, a girl ran up, calling out, "Excuse me, please let me ride with you." Suda watched as she entered, catching her breath with a pue. He looked at her and thought she might be an elementary school student, wondering why she was alone. She turned to him with a smile and thanked him. Suda politely replied, "You're welcome. Which floor?" Her smile suddenly faded, and she answered, "12th floor. Please press 12. Suda responded that they were going to the same floor. She stood between Suda and the man, then suddenly bumped into Suda. Startled, he asked what she came there for. Suda hesitated, thinking whether he could really say he came to become a VTuber. Since they were going to the same place, he wondered if she was a VTuber too, but decided it would be troublesome to reveal too much. With a tense smile, he instead teased, saying she looked like she was coming home from elementary school, and asked if she had come alone. The girl frowned and corrected him. "Elementary school? I'm a middle schooler." Suda panicked, exclaiming, "Huh? Middle schooler?" Looking at her, he thought to himself, "Are all middle schoolers this beautiful these days? Ah, Isuzu is beautiful too. So that's why middle schoolers are so beautiful these days." The girl stared at him until Suda nervously asked what was wrong. She then asked if he didn't know who she was. Suda admitted that he didn't emo. Shocked, she shouted, "Yeah? You don't watch television?" Suda explained that he mostly just looked at his phone. She grabbed her head in disbelief, calling him such a modern kid. Suda pointed out that she was one too. The girl laughed and said that to take such an impudent attitude with her made him interesting. Smiling, she added that she liked it. Suda, tense and unsure how to react, simply thanked her. She then introduced herself as Tenryugoa Alk. Suda repeated her name awkwardly, saying it felt like he had heard it somewhere before. When they reached the 12th floor, Alk remarked that he was the only one who didn't know her, calling him someone with no refinement. Suda retorted, telling her to leave it alone, while thinking that he had maybe heard that name somewhere at school before. Alk suddenly laughed again, saying he was so interesting and precious. Pointing at him, she added with a smile, "Winnie's older brother." Suda froze in shock.
By the way, if you enjoyed the video, maybe consider liking and subscribing, pretty please?